Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is porta-johns, also known as porta-potties. In several states, you are required by law to provide a place for your contractors to use the restroom. My state of North Carolina is one of them. The only time temporary toilet facilities do not need to be provided is for contractors working just one day and have transportation readily available to nearby toilet facilities. We have a rehab project going on right now in a neighborhood with a lot of transition. It is shocking to me how many projects do not provide a porta-john for their contractors. One day, I counted 3 trucks pulling up, and there is a line of contractors waiting to use ours. I hated doing it, but we ended up putting a lock on our porta-john because it was just getting out of control. So, for $80 flippin' a month, do the right thing and provide a place for your contractors to check their text messages. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us my very good friend, Jake Harris. Jake is a lifelong student of Project Cashflow and always looking for ways to add value. In the past, Jake was our general contractor on a handful of projects and truly did add value. He has since moved on to the tech industry, helping many to streamline their own projects, connecting the money to the investor to the contractor. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show, Jake Harris.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Porta-johns. I don't know why that came up when I was like, what am I going to do for the intro with Jake? But literally, we had a line of people trying to use our porta-john. It's nuts.
No, it's true. And then unfortunately it becomes a stopping point for anybody and everybody. And being on the job site, it's always surprising to sit there and watch a Mercedes pull up only to use a porta-john. And I'm just like, are you kidding me right now? So yeah, it happens. But I applaud your effort for doing the right thing because it's important. And they will not give you a plumbing inspection if you don't have the facilities outside. Like that's one of the things that the inspectors will shut you down if they don't provide ready access. And I have to believe that it's because the cities were bombarded by local companies, because without local facilities, then all of a sudden they're running down the street and McDonald's and Target and all these other Walmarts and companies and everybody were sitting there and saying, hey, listen, stop that, right? Put it into the code. So there's always a reason and a rhyme as to why things are done. And something that simple, and to your point, $80 a month to do the right thing is what should be done. I agree.
Absolutely.
I wasn't aware that was what we were talking about this morning, but I agree.
That was just my badassery bestowment. And look, we haven't even started the interview and you are already providing value. So I want to just give a quick little background on our relationship. And I met you through a local RIA group and you were one of the speakers. And I was just like, oh, he is just so good. And guys, when I say he likes to provide value, he is always trying to provide value to others. And so he reached out to me and said, hey, I see you have a project. Do you have a GC for it? And I was like, we actually just went through our 3rd GC on this project and we desperately need one. And he said, well, I'd be interested in being the GC. I was like, what? Like totally struck gold. And I will never forget to this day. You had said, well, come, to one of my projects so you see what my work is. And we were walking through and there was this young man in the closet fixing things. And I don't even remember his name, but you said, do you remember his name?
It was either Isaiah or Eli. Those are the
Okay.
two guys that were on the job that we were training.
And you said, Eli, pull your pants up. And the guy, pulls his pants up, and then he was continue working. And he said, his grandmother lives across the street, and he was out one day and asking if he was, if I had any work available. So you kept going on and showing me like the finishes and this and that and how you do your work. And I was like, I was done. As soon as you told me that you hired the grandson of the neighbor across the street, you are, building communities here. You are providing jobs to people who need it. And that's what sold me on you. And I will never forget that. It just exudes the character that you provide. And, I truly appreciate it. And having you be my friend. And you have since moved on to this tech industry, which we're going to talk about here. But we still rely heavily on you for questions all the time. And you are always very generous with your time with us. So I do appreciate it. So let's talk about you. Because the last time you were on here, we were talking about Flip Factory, which was an app. So just talk real quick what Flip Factory is. And you have since rebranded and moved on to something a little bit more different. So let's talk about the first one first and then how it transitioned.
Well, yeah, and the transition is really just a name alone, right? The functionality. I mean, if you look at most companies, they start out with an awkward name, and then they move on to their final name when they kind of figure themselves out and they find their true value. I mean, I heard Bezos started Amazon as Abracadabra or Cadabra Inc. or something, right? So every good company has an awkward first name, and that was ours. So Flip Factory spoke to the idea of process, procedure. And the idea is that we were frustrated, but Juan Wart is my partner, and we were frustrated on the fact that we didn't have any technology on our phones that we could track and execute our projects. We were like, it's 2019. Why can I can literally get a pizza to my house and watch it on my phone, but I can't track my $100,000 project across town? I said, this is insane. We need to do something. Something needs to be done. And then it kind of clicked and said, well, we're going to do something. So we, after talking to our groups, talking to our people, we went to a local tech developer, basically engaged them in a full-time engagement. And 2 years later, we released Flip Factory app. It was released on April 20th of 2021. And we quickly got adoption from lenders, from owners, from subcontractors. Everybody liked the idea of being able to execute and plan, execute, pay, and manage through their phone and on the web. But what they said, hey, we do more than just fix and flip. We do new construction. We want to use this on a commercial job. We want to use this for infrastructure. I had a guy contact me that was subbing out work from NASA to work on a space station.
Wow.
I mean, the application became so much bigger than we even anticipated. And so we said, we got to call this something else. We got to rebrand. We got to call it something that has greater application and greater potential. And the name Build Wallet popped up on our search. I saved it. I went away from it for about a month. I came back. I impulsively bought it. And I said, well, if I'm wrong, then I'll owe Juan some money. And after doing some A/B testing through the market, everybody agreed, because that became the fundamental. The fundamental principle of our product was a separation and isolation of funds into a project checking account, which you can see then became a Build Wallet. And the core principle is all about separating, isolating, and dedicating funds for a specific project, which is what I learned some years ago, but had always applied to all of my investment opportunities, all of my investors, all my contracts. Any big project, I would go down to the bank and open up a new bank account, because I wanted to separate and isolate my funds. Now, my accountant didn't like it, and my QuickBooks file didn't like it, but I could open up any account. And I remember even on the projects you and I were working on, I gave you guys view-only access into my bank account so that you could see where exactly the money was going. And then we would reconcile that account against our spreadsheet of budget, and you would know exactly what everything was, what was spent over, what was spent under. I mean, down to the penny. And that provided a lot of trust, a lot of confidence, and it allowed us to move forward and focus on the project, not worrying about the cash flow and the drama surrounding funding.
And there's never drama with funding. I mean, come on now, ever.
I would pitch a hypothesis at you to say that I believe that it's probably approaching 80 to 90% of problems stem from cash flow, poor cash flow management on the project. And it's not just lender and owner, or owner and contractor. It's contractor and subcontractor. I mean, the response that we've got by putting all of this in a transparent, easy to use distribution method is that the drama's gone. They can focus on the work. They can focus on the project. They can focus on buying and selling more houses. They can focus on trusting their contractor to do, and the contractor has an easier job because he doesn't have to worry about earmarking funds. He can sit there and just roll and execute what he was proposed to do. And so our goal was always just to make things easier. You said add value. Our goal was to add value to projects and make better projects.
So many of the listeners, they are, flipping single family homes. So let's just use like a single family home project. How would this help the listeners and to buy into Build Wallet? How does it just go step by step how they can use it for flipping a single family home?
Well, it forces upfront greater planning. Right. And so you either, when you plan hard, you project easy. When you plan easy, you usually project hard. Right. So we put the emphasis on let's plan, let's come up with a good plan of attack, and let's make a solid plan and a solid budget. So the Build Wallet allows you to open up a project.
And by the way, it's an app on your phone? Or is this? It's
an app on your phone and on the web. I mean, okay. It's whatever interface you choose to use, you get the same information. They're all linked and they're all connected.
And they just go to Build Wallet to download that app, like in the Play Store.
BuildWallet.com will get it there, or either the Apple or the Google Play Store.
Okay, perfect.
And you register, and you're actually getting a digital wallet, on the platform. That's cool. You get to actually have your own digital wallet. And then when you register a project, when you sign up and register a project, you registering a project is completely free. Signing up is completely free. It's only when you actually sign up a project, you download or you either make yourself a schedule of values, or you download one of our templates that we give out for free, so you can grab that and you can know exactly the sequential steps that you need to do. And only when you want to invite your lender or invite your contractor or start to make this an actionable job do you pay anything. And that is something that we put just a small fee on. It's a $300 one-time fee for the project. And that's it. That's the only fee that the owners ever pay. And so from there, now you're confident that your funds are being used for that project. You get to sit back and watch the status bubbles change from, contracted, in progress, executed, closed. I mean, you have transparency and visibility in your project like you've never had before.
All right. So you add your scope of work, your schedule of values, you add it into this program. And then how do you get contractors attached to your project?
Well, that's a good point, because not all owners know everything about all the different prices. So what we recommend is that the owner takes a stab at putting together a scope, right? Just craft what you think, delete what you don't need out of the list. It's a big list. So delete what you don't need, but I would rather give you a big list and have you delete what you don't need than give you a blank piece of paper and ask you to build something from scratch.
Right.
So I don't have a chimney. We're not doing chimney repair. I don't have garage doors. We're going to delete garage doors. It's very simple and easy to shape and use. Then you invite a contractor that you want to use to the project. And he comes back and says one of two things. Either I don't have the time, I'm rejecting this bid, in which case you invite somebody else. Or number two is he'll actually make a bid on your project. And making a bid takes your original scope and values and modifies it. He actually puts in real numbers and then sends it back for your review. So again, you're negotiating and refining this schedule of values, this list of smart contracts, to make it what you both will agree to. And then once you bounce it back and forth a couple of times and you both hit agree, then it becomes actionable and you can actually start actioning through subcontractors.
Well, there's a contractor that you and I shared, Carmelo, who we love. He's gotten very expensive lately, though. But anyway, so we still love Carmelo. But Carmelo's second language is English. So communicating sometimes with him on text is tough because he speaks Spanish. So how do you deal with someone who, English is their second language and it's tough for them to communicate?
So Carmelo, it's funny you bring him up out of everybody that we've worked together with, but it's funny you bring him up because he was actually one of our original test subjects for the platform.
I love Carmelo.
He's a great guy. But to your point, yes. Carmelo, the way Carmelo used to work with us was all of his contracts were via text. And then his proof of documentation was via text. And then he would ask me to Zelle him money from Wells Fargo Bank to Wells Fargo Bank. So Zelle's a functioning space there.
And
now,
even,
as a business,
I remember his invoices, he would take a photo of invoices. I remember that too. So
yeah, everything was text with him, right?
Yeah.
But what he would do was he would send me a note and he would say, "Hey, boss man, done, see attached." And it would be 3, 4, 5 photos. And then he would expect me to Zelle him over the money. Now, from business to business, he took a hit on that money when he received it, but he didn't care. He wanted to get his money fast, so he didn't have to go meet me somewhere and everything else. That's another thing that COVID did, was advance the fact that most of the subcontractors are now more comfortable with the idea of using digital payments, because 2-3 years ago, you and I could never satisfy a subcontractor with a digital payment. It would have to be a check or cash, right?
Right.
That's actually something that COVID did. So Carmelo was an initial use case for us to test whether or not a subcontractor could open his phone, use an invoice, same principle. He pushed the invoice button, he took 3 photos and added some notes and hit submit. I, across town, received the invoice, saw the 3 photos, pushed the approve and pay button, and then Carmelo's phone would ding across town and he'd say, "I got paid." It was that fast.
Wow. And so I do have to ask, how do you know those photos are coming from your project?
They're geotagged. But we're not recommending that anyone pay off of photos. We believe that a photo says 1,000 words, but the opportunity is that it's far better to have a reference point. And again, when you start documenting all these photos and putting them up on your photo wall of your project, all those photos stay available to everybody associated with the project, from the lender all the way down to the subcontractor. So you're really having a transparent view of all the photos, whether it's a change order or an invoice or whatever. All those photos are being racked up with the date stamps and geolocations. But when you get some photos across town, I work heavily with Vance. If Vance, your husband, and I are doing a project and whatever the case, and he says, "Well, I just got photos," and I say, "Well, good, go stop by, make sure they did everything you're getting these photos as a representation of what you're expecting to see when you show up. You're not going to get an invoice that says, 'Hey man, I'm done,' and you go, 'Oh, let me go see what's going on.' The photos are a representation, and it's a way for maybe the English isn't their first language, but this is a way for the person on the site to represent to the person managing the contract that, 'Hey, I've done what you told me to do. I'm at a milestone that we've previously agreed to. I'd like to get some money, please.'"
Gotcha. So my original point to this question was, though, you do have a translator in here as well, don't you?
We don't have an English to Spanish translator just yet. That's probably coming in down the road so that you can pick. But what we did was we made it so simple that if you can use Facebook, English Facebook version, you can use our app.
Gotcha.
I mean, we matched up that functionality and took cues from the social networks and figured out how we could make this the easiest use cases possible.
Got it. All right. Thank you for explaining that. So you have your contractor. They just took pictures of what they just completed. They send it to you. They say, "We want our money." So how does the money get involved in here? So is your lender attached to this as well?
Yes. So like I said, this is a full project platform. So it connects lender all the way down to labor and everybody in between. Again, going back to the idea of a dedicated bank account, that build wallet is specific and addressed. It's a one-time use bank account. It's held inside our banking partner. It has FDIC insurance. It's not crypto. It's not funny money. It's really inside of our banking partner. And it keeps the money isolated and safe for the project. That's the money that the contractor is using to execute his subcontracts and to manage that and to set them up and to make it work, so that when he does confirm that the work has been done as approved, then the money can be released. The owner stops by on a phase-by-phase basis and checks it out, and then contacts the lender and says, hey, lender, I'm done this much. Here's my report showing you what was actually spent on the project, which they have access to as well. The lender can log in and see exactly what's been transacted. And then the lender comes in, sends their inspector just like normal, comes in, looks around and says, yep, everything matches what you're telling me from the build wallet report on the project. We feel very comfortable because now we have two methods of verification. One is a financial distribution. One is physical representation on the job site with photographs and all of this reference point from a third-party inspector. We'll go ahead and release the next draw. Have a nice day. Keep moving fast. Keep hustling. Keep going.
So say if I'm working with a company, an example is, say, Fund That Flip. They are a hard money lender that a lot of investors use to fund deals, and they do what's called a draw schedule. I'm talking down for listeners in case they're just learning this. So they do a draw schedule. So how does that incorporate in there? So I know you said that, just like normal when they send their their appraiser. So in your wallet, like the hard money lender wants to see that the work is done yet before they release those funds to you. Is this going to get rid of the fee for wiring money, or is it connected to them? Is that going away at all? Because we pay $100 every time we have to do a draw from our hard money lender to have that money wired to our account, and it's done after the fact. So our contractors, we have a stockpile of money to pay them up front, and then when the draw comes in, it replenishes that into our account. So how does that work?
You're talking about operating capital, and that's it's funny right now because a lot of people have the monkey doesn't see kind of mentality on, right? The fact is that it's such a seller's market when it comes to the labor suppliers these days. Nobody's waiting for a paid when paid situation, right? There's nobody I know that sits there and says, oh yeah, just get me whenever you get the invoice, right? They're literally finishing up and they're walking off the job and their hand is out for their cash. So as an investor, you need to have an operating capital in order to facilitate, in order to manage and move these projects along. So a number of the lenders that we work with, and I know Matt over at Fund That Flip, great guy, one of the first people that actually looked at the platform. But the opportunity is that all the lenders, and we've been very, very heavily involved with the National Private Lenders Association and trying to gain awareness around the idea of the distribution and the fund, in that level, it's called fund control mechanics. But it's giving them a better way to safely distribute the funds that doesn't hamper distribution, doesn't hamper production, right? Because there's a lot of times where you can put new processes and procedures in place and it makes it harder to get things built. But if you have something that both reduces the risk for the lender and increases production from the builder and the contractor, that's a win-win.
Absolutely.
So we've spent a year targeting and approaching and making great relationships up at that group that are all the highest lenders in the land. And that's what they're doing. And that's what we're trying to get across. And it's been a long stretch because, again, as you can imagine, new and innovative technology is not something these guys jump onto all day, every day. It takes a while. They have to understand us. They have to understand where we're coming from. They have to understand where the idea came from. They have to vet us and make sure that we're solid and that we have good, solid technology processes and procedures behind us. So it's been a long road, but we've finally started to make some real traction to get the lenders of the community to realize that lending into a build wallet is far safer and far more effective than lending traditionally, which is basically handing money from an owner to a lender, or an owner to a borrower, from the borrower to the contractor and contractor to sub. Let's organize this a little bit. Let's get behind a mechanical fund distribution mechanics that makes logical sense. So to answer that question, that's a long way, but to answer the question, lenders see value in the idea of distributing their lending funds directly into a fund like this. What you'll find is that lenders who fund this typically fund more and more frequently because their risk is reduced. So they're not trying to hamper you and pull back and give you less on your draw schedule. They're trying to advance this forward because, again, we're using a third party disinterested mechanism for the distribution of funds. Why wouldn't they feel comfortable? It's just like using a lawyer an escrow lawyer at the time of closing. The lender doesn't wire the owner the money. The lender wires the money to the lawyer. The lawyer then hands it off to the buyer or to the seller, right? They're comfortable with a third party group. We are that third party group for this industry.
Gotcha. All right. So I coach for Homeschooled by Tarek El Moussa, and I have a lot of students that are just getting started and they are the investor. And some of their biggest fears are finding contractors, finding lenders. So is there anything in there that can connect an investor to maybe a contractor they didn't know about? Or does it open the door for anything for contractors to say, hey, I work on the Build Wallet platform? How does all that work? Is there like
we're building that network. We're building that network as we continue to grow, and it's going to be more than just lenders and contractors. There will be subcontractors as well. One of the hardest parts for us, and I think this as well, was the fact the guys who are doing the majority of the work on these projects hate to sell. They love to work. They hate to sell. They're not good at it. They don't understand marketing. Most of them don't have paperwork. They don't understand what it means to actually run a business. They just understand the trade work that they want to get done. So we believe that Build Wallet will elevate the group. It will bring that group up, those subcontractors that just want to do the tile work, that just want to do framing, that just want to do painting. It will give them a platform that they can come onto. And then pretty soon what's going to happen is all these invitations are just going to start racking up in their phone. They're not going to have to go on sales calls. They're not going to have to go on visits. They're going to just sit there and it's going to be like, hey, Jen, you could have a project and you can look up a local painter and go, hey, you want to come paint my house? Give me a bid. And this guy's in the middle of painting another house and his phone will ding and it'll say, hey, address is around the corner. Submit your bid here. Hit submit, right? That's the process and the platform that we're building, is that level of networked relationships so that we can expedite more projects faster and safer. And again, it's a platform. It's not a software. It's a platform. So we're connecting the top level capital source with the final mile provider that actually gets it done in the field and every point in between.
So what project type is a best fit for this app or platform, excuse me?
We have homeowners who are redoing their kitchens, and we have multi-million-dollar new construction.
Wow.
It doesn't matter. I mean, if to be as blunt and as basic as I can, if you have a scope, a budget, and a list of people who need to get paid, you are perfect for Build Wallet. That is the fundamental principles of what we were built on. It's a scope, a budget, and a list of people who need to get paid. That's it.
Well, I knew you were special when I first met you because when you were GCing our projects, you came with spreadsheets. I'm like, who is this guy? And we're so organized. And I just know that the sky is the limit with you. This is going to be so involved in all of our projects moving forward. And I just am so appreciative that you have put the brain power behind this from the contractor side and to do it that way, and then to include the investor and the financial folks as well. So thank you, Jake, so much for this. And as we're wrapping up this first portion here, I said my badassery bestowment about Porta-Johns. Do you have a badassery bestowment that you can share with my audience?
I think that to be successful, you talked about a lot of people that were learning and a lot of people that were growing, and you said, how could this help you? I think one of the badassery bestowments that I would offer up to the listeners is really to fall in love with a good process. I find that people invest in processes and procedures more than they'll invest in just people. So if you're a nice person and you mean well and everything's good, they'll say hi to you. But if you can come with math and you can come with backup, that will superpower you. That will superpower your investment goals. It will really grow you. If you really want to get big, you really got to get a good process, a good procedure, and that's something that everybody struggles with, and that's we wanted to bring our process and procedure, which you appreciated even on a personal level, to as many people as possible.
And it makes all the difference in the world when you are that investor and you're starting out and it looks like you are just so organized and people are going to love working with you because you're easy to work with. You are very transparent with everything you do and you provide that. So thank you for creating this. Any other final thoughts that you want to share before we move on to the second part?
People, and this goes for everybody, people always abandon process for progress. I've watched it 1,000 times. I wrote it down when I was asked to speak on the 101 ways to lose money in real estate. I was in a panel, and that was one of the things I brought up. I said, if you really want to lose money, abandon your process for progress. It's when you're making progress that you need to double down on your process. And one of the ways to do that is to have a firm structure, a firm foundation, good automation, good systems, good processes, and good procedures, and then double down on them. Don't abandon them, double down on them.
Awesome. Very well said. And thank you for sharing this. All right. So the second half of the podcast is what makes Jake Harris a badass. And I use the acronym BADASS. And the first letter is B for book. What's a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
Atomic Habits, James Clear.
Oh, so good.
Just getting the basics and understanding that you will not rise to your goals. You will fall to your processes and procedures. You will fall to your habits. So if you want to grow, you've got to get good habits.
I love that book, actually. It was huge. So thank you for bringing that up. All right. The first A in badass is advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
My grandfather gave me an awesome piece of advice that I'd share here. So I was 26 years old. I was at a family event, brother's wedding, actually. And so all the aunts and uncles were surrounded around me. And I asked my grandpa, and I said, Grandpa, I'm your oldest grandson. I said, you were an entrepreneur, uncle's an entrepreneur, dad's an entrepreneur, aunt's an entrepreneur. I said, you obviously started something, and here I am, 26 years old. And I said, do you have any advice for a young budding entrepreneur? And the old man sat back in his chair and he swigged his drink and he took a sip and took a puff on a cigar, just as you're imagining right now. And he looked at me and said, well, I hope you like being broke. And I died and said, Grandpa, that's not what I was hoping for. But man, did that old man know what he was talking about. To do this well, you have to be willing to live like nobody wants to live so that you can live like everybody desires.
Absolutely.
That's the truth. Anybody who tells
goodness.
you there's a shortcut, I would call BS on that. It is absolutely the truth.
So true. Oh my goodness, Grandpa, thank you. All right.
He's the man.
The D in badass is drive. What drives you to be successful?
I've had a lot of time to look at this, and Juan and I talk about why we're doing this, because this is not your typical thing. We're not getting venture capital. We're doing this as pretty much as hard as you can by not doing, everybody wants to invest in tech. We could have gone out and doubled that down. But when he came back and we sat there and said, what's our drive? I am driven to help people. I'm driven to add value. I'm driven to right wrongs. I feel morally pulled to do that. God calls us to help other people, and this is the vehicle that I could help the most amount of people. I could help the most amount of people across the country, across the world. This concept of isolated funds will eliminate so much drama and so much angst and strife and problems. And it's just so right. And it's so easy when you put a vehicle around it, like what we built with Build Wallet. There's two concepts: Build Wallet, which is a bank account, and Build Wallet, the company. So I am driven to help other people do projects better.
And I'm a direct recipient of that. And I truly appreciate you and so honored to call you friend. And I do lean on you heavily at times when I'm like, what do I do here? So you speak
Anytime.
the truth on that. And I truly appreciate that. The second A in badass is aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you're currently working on?
It's the same goal, to change projects on the face of the planet.
Love it. Love it.
I mean, that's going to be a principle for everybody that we bring in the company. If you're not here to change projects on the face of this planet, there's not a spot for you. If you want to do some really cool stuff and change projects, I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing it.
Awesome. All right. The first S in badass is systems. You are the man of systems. So what systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
You got to get, I mean, passion gets you up, routine keeps you going, right? So it's again, those habits, back to James Clear, you're everybody wants to win the gold, but only the person who has the routine to get there is actually, gets up early and does the reps and does the routines is actually going to get it going. So I always start off with daily prayer, being thankful for my friends, for my family, for my aspirations, write everything down. And then I start my day and I said, first things first. I don't start with the little stuff, start with the big stuff. Yeah.
Like Eat That Frog. I think that's another book.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And unfortunately too many of us, Nightingale, he said, Earl Nightingale said, he said, winners make it a habit to do what losers don't like to do. So do what the losers don't want to do. And then that's how you become a winner. You just got to make it into your habit routines.
Well said. All right. The final S in badass is success. What does success mean to you?
This I struggled with this question because I know this sounds weird. I know this sounds very off key and probably not very popular, but the fact is that I don't care about success. I'm kind of a monk when it comes to the way I live. I don't own stuff. I don't really have aspirations to own stuff. And that's very contrary to what a lot of people. I want to be significant. And I don't want to be significant in a way that you're like, oh, he's popular. And no, I want to add value to other people's lives. And there was a story that I wanted to share that I think brings this into relevance. And it was talking about a girl walking down the beach, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's the story of a girl throwing starfish. And basically what it was is there was a horrible storm on the beach, and there were all these starfish washed up. And there was a small girl walking down the beach, picking up starfish and throwing them back in the water. And a bunch of older people were up on their balconies, and they were kind of laughing and pointing and laughing and joking. And finally, an old man came down and he goes, "Dear, what are you doing? Don't you understand? There's no way you can throw them all back. It's a hopeless effort what you're trying to do." And she sat there and thought about it for a second. And she picked one up and she hucked it back in the ocean. And she goes, "Well, I made a difference to that one." And he thought about it for a second, and he got down and he started throwing starfish back. Pretty soon, everybody that was laughing and pointing and laughing and just joking got up, and they saved all the starfish. Significance to one starfish is important, but if you can spark something and make real lasting change, then you have the opportunity. I don't care about success. I don't care if I am successful. I don't care if I'm not as successful. I'm a missionary on a goal to be significant to this industry. And when I'm significant and I've changed the way, like when I'm old and I'm traveling and I go to India and somebody goes to start a project and they go, "Okay, you got your plans?" You check. You got your permits? Check. Did you open a Build Wallet? I don't care if it's called Build Wallet, but if they fundamentally understand that they have to isolate their funds to execute a project, that means we're significant.
Well,
and that's what I'm here for.
You are definitely significant to me, and I truly appreciate you. Thank you for being on the show, Jake. Always a pleasure.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, and thank you. And that is all. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.